Good afternoon, hello, and good morning. If you're east of, or if you're west of here, good morning. Thanks for dropping in for another session of Notes from the Route. My name is Jared Forte. I'm the host, and what we do on Notes from the Route is we talk about some of the ideas that I've been working on in my writing, some of the ideas that have been sort of on my mind, I've been working through, and I do it publicly to encourage a conversation. On one hand, it helps me to get better clarification and to get feedback from other people who are interested in some of the same ideas. And also, hopefully, it's of some value to you, the viewer, the listener, if you can, use some of these things to inform the work that you're doing. This happens every Monday through Thursday live on Google Hangouts on air. Also, you can watch it on my YouTube channel and also post a live feed on my website, jaredforte.com, that you see right here on my lower third /live. You can watch it live there. Also, if you want to catch up on past episodes, you can do that on YouTube or follow me on Twitter at @thisjared, and you'll be right up to speed with everything that's going on. Okay, so today's topic, the topic for today's discussion is habits and tactics, the relationship between habits and tactics. And there are a lot of people who are much more qualified and much more skilled and have done a wonderful job explaining the importance of habit and explaining the psychology of habit. What I want to do is to talk about them habits in sort of a limited framework in relationship to tactics or how to do. When I say tactics, I'm basically talking about all the things that teach you or show you how to. My personal experience, or my most recent experience with the power of habits, comes from the habit that I was able to establish during the first several months of the year. Now, I've heard it said, and you may have heard it said, that it takes 21 days to establish a habit, but that number is pretty arbitrary. It's different for everyone, but it is true that once the habit is established, it forms sort of a default in your brain or in your mind, and it makes it easier for you to do something than to not do it. And once you've crossed that line, then you can create a lot of momentum and a lot of productivity in your life if the habits that you have established are conducive to producing results for you. So, so I want to talk about the habits of production, habits of producers. The first thing that producers have to do is show up. That sounds easy. It is easy, but it's also easy not to show up. It's easy to blow the little first step off because it seems like such an insignificant thing in the big picture. But you create momentum simply by being present and presenting yourself before the work that is there for you to do at whatever level it is. Even if you're just beginning, that showing up part of the game creates the first steps in the momentum. Then once you show up, then you start. The habit of starting is big. Taking the first small step of action, sometimes it's the most difficult step. If you've ever been into running or any type of fitness, a lot of times the first few minutes are difficult. Getting out of the door is difficult, but once you get those first few steps going and you start moving, then things tend to get easier. And then the third habit of producers is the habit of sticking. So you show up, you start, and you stick. Sticking means you keep going. And that is the perseverance that it takes to continue on a course of action until the results that you are desiring to achieve happen, or until you learn how to move around the obstacles that are keeping you from the results that you desire to achieve. So those are like the three habits of production, and I was able to incorporate those in my life this year in my writing. I made it a point to write every day, every morning, anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 words every day, and just 7 days a week. I didn't even take weekends. It was like I need to build this momentum. And now that I do that, it's not, I don't have the same resistance to start writing. I don't find it difficult to sit down. I'm not intimidated by the blank screen. I'm not concerned about what I'm going to have to say. I don't try to start editing before the ideas are even present. So getting over that first, or getting over the resistance to the task, is what habits allow you to do. Because what habits do is, the effect of habit is conditioning. So a good way to understand conditioning is to use like a sports metaphor. In the early 1990s, around 89, 90, there was a basketball team, Loyola Marymount, and they ran hard for 40 minutes every game. And they weren't a big school. They didn't have all the top talent in the country. They didn't have all the highest recruits out of high school. But what they did was they were so much better physical condition than any of the other teams. They practiced harder. They ran harder than anyone else. And they played a really fun game of basketball. So they would lull you into their game. It's fun to run up and down the court and score 140 points the way they did. But something strange would happen when it was 10 minutes, 8 minutes left in the second half. Then that other team who was having all that fun running up and down the court would go into this really dark place. They would not be able to keep up with this hardcore run and gun style that was being presented. So it was their conditioning. Their conditioning overcame the superior talent of the people who they faced. Their conditioning allowed them to succeed in situations where it was unlikely for them to succeed. It helped them to turn around. It helped to put a program on the map that perhaps should not have been there, just by the sake of having a higher level of conditioning than the people who were around them. So that's sort of the effect side of habits. It creates conditioning. And what happens is you have this increased capacity to handle the challenges that arise. If you have to burn all of your mental energy just trying to get yourself started because you don't have the habits in place, then you arrive at your work already exhausted, already overstressed, because you've had to fight yourself to get started. And now you have to fight yourself through the challenge. And in many cases, if it's a complicated problem, if it's a difficult process, if it's something that's going to require you to maintain a level of effort over a long period of time, that tax on your energy, because you don't have the habits in place, is going to undo you the way it's undone me many times. So that's where habits are. They are the foundation. Now, tactics are very important because you have to know how to do things in order to accomplish whatever it is that you want to accomplish. They're going to be skills that you need to develop and approaches to your work that you're going to need to master in order to get results. So under no circumstances am I dismissing tactics. What I will say is that tactics are irrelevant if you don't have the capacity to do the work. And that capacity comes from the habits of production that you establish. Another thing that's important about tactics is, or let's just make it simple and say another important thing about how to, is that you have to understand a problem before you can effectively apply a solution. You have to understand what the problem is before you can apply the solution. So in order to have an understanding of the problem, you have to be doing some work. You have to be in the trenches and working on something. And when you're in that place, then you have a deeper understanding of, okay, well, this is a problem and I don't quite know how to solve it. There must be some sort of way to do this. Then you can go and find some just-in-time knowledge to apply to your situation. You understand it. You've invested yourself into reaching a point where you are. Now, let's find, how do I fix this problem? What a lot of people do, and I know I've done it before, because accumulating tactics feels like progress. When you're learning how to do things, it feels like, okay, well, I'm making progress because I've learned how to do this. I've learned how to do that. I've learned how to solve this technical problem. I've learned how to apply this hack in X situation, whatever the case may be. I've learned how to do this graphic presentation. All these things you learn are extremely valuable, but they're only valuable in the context of the problem that you're trying to solve. So if you're not actually working towards solving a problem, then accumulating the knowledge to solve it or getting the tactics in place to solve it is irrelevant. And it can create a delusion of progress where you feel like, okay, maybe I don't have well, maybe I haven't figured everything out, but at least I've learned how to set up this WordPress blog. I figured out how to do this, and I figured out how to upload my videos, and I figured out how to do all these things. But in the meantime, while you figured out all this tactical and technical knowledge, you haven't written a blog post, you haven't recorded a video, you don't have any content to fill up this pipeline that you have figured out how to do. You figured out, okay, well, this is the best time to post to Twitter, this is the best time to do that, yet you don't have any content to present. So you have to have the foundation of work behind you, and you have to have the habit base to accomplish the work in order for you to apply tactics to any effect. So technical knowledge. One other thing that is important, it's not just one of the other challenges with tactical knowledge is that not only do you have to master the techniques that you learn, you also have to understand when they apply and how to best apply them to the effects that you're looking to achieve. Sometimes you can fill your head up with a lot of different tricks, but you don't understand how to best use them to accomplish what you want to accomplish. And learning, it can be challenging, and you work through, and it's hard work to master these things. And because you've done this hard work, you feel like you've accomplished something when actually you haven't. Hard work and accomplishment are not, they don't automatically go together. Just because you've worked hard doesn't mean that you've accomplished made any progress towards your goal if your effort hasn't been directed in the right area. If you haven't directed your efforts into the right things, then all the hard work in the world, hey, you're just working hard. It's just, it's to no specific end. So one of the things, another great thing about habits is once you have some sound habits in place, and they're going to be different for whatever the endeavor that you're pursuing. If you're in a sales position and you have to make phone calls, you have to reach a place where you don't encounter this resistance. You don't have to expend a tremendous amount of emotional energy just to pick up the phone. You don't have to burn yourself out just to make that first call. That has to come to a place where it's automatic, and you can relax into that part so that you have this emotional energy to face the challenges that come along. And when you have a problem that you need to solve, you have the emotional and mental energy to, okay, this is a problem. I have to figure out how am I going to fix it. I need to find what tactic, what method do I need to apply to this? Oh, I don't know how to do that. Okay, well, let me go and find the right tactic for this specific issue, and let's apply that. And then once you applied it, then you've learned, okay, when I face this challenge in the future, then this is what I do. And that's a great way. It's like the concept of just-in-time learning. You don't want to halt your progress just to learn a specific tactic or skill or method. You want to always be working and learning as you go, because if you stop everything to learn, then you lose all of your momentum. There are very few cases where there are very few circumstances where you can't continue to make progress as you learn, and you have a different level of motivation to learn because you know right away that this is useful and this is where you're going to you're going to learn something that you can use. If it's just abstract, then a lot of times there's no motivation to really learn it. But if you're in the trenches and you're doing things and you're working and you're striving towards your goal and you have this mindset of I'm going to produce these results, then you have the advantage of being able to understand when to use the tactics that you know, and you have a better clarity on what it is that you need to learn. So you don't waste a lot of time and energy doing following all the latest, hottest, newest, hacks and tricks and breakthrough ideas because you know that they don't apply to you because you are a producer and you're working towards what you do. So that's sort of the so that's the note, that's the idea, the relationship between habits and tactics. The habits are your foundation, and the stronger your foundation, the more energy you have in reserve when it comes to do the work that you're trying to do. When it's time to produce and you face a challenge, you haven't burnt yourself out and you burned all of your emotional energy just to psych yourself up to get started. You're a pro. You just show up and you get started because that's what you do. And then when you face a challenge, when you face a specific problem, then you turn to your tactical knowledge that you've acquired and the experiences that you've had while you've been working, and you figure out how to work around these problems. And when you see that there isn't a solution that you know, then you say, okay, well, this is what I need to learn. Where do I go to find this information? Where do I go to figure out how to solve this problem? Then you go and you pinpoint a solution because you understand your problem. You can pinpoint your solution and get back on track and keep producing. So that's the idea for today. Focus on your habits. Be selective about the tactics. Accumulate the tactics that you try to solve problems that you understand, rather than just taking random solutions out of the air and getting yourself confused and worked up. I know I've done it. I got a hard drive full of ebooks and courses and stuff that I haven't used. I've been an information junkie at different points in my life because I feel like I need to know, but what really made the most difference for me is when, okay, I just need to work. And then as I'm going, I'll be able to figure out, okay, what do I need to learn? Let's learn that, and let's apply that, and let's keep moving forward. So that's been today's Notes for the Route. Thanks for taking a few minutes to spend with me this morning, afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. If you have any comments or questions or feedback, I would love it if you can leave it on G+, you can leave it on YouTube. You can follow me at Twitter at ThisJared, as you see on the bottom of the screen. That's THISGERAD. And you can find out more information about my writing and stuff at jaredforte.com. All right, that's today's session. Have a wonderful day.